Hey everyone, welcome to Coaster Camaraderie. Ever since VelociCoaster and Pantheon made their way into the spotlight, there's been an ongoing debate in the coaster community on which will be the better coaster. In this video, I'm going to give you my take on the debate. Before I say which coaster I think will be better, let's run down the stats of each of these Intamin Blitz coasters. Let's start with VelociCoaster. VelociCoaster features two launches, the first sending you up to 50 miles per hour, and the second sending you up to 70 miles per hour. VelociCoaster features a 155-foot tall top hat, 4 inversions including an Immelman, dive loop, 0G stall, and a barrel roll, and features a track length of 4,700 feet. Now let's move over to Pantheon. Pantheon features a total of 4 launches, the first one sending you up to about 30 miles per hour, the second sending you to around 45 miles per hour, the third up to 60, and the final to 73. Pantheon's highest point stands 173 feet tall, and features 2 inversions, a 0G winder and a 0G stall. Now let's put these stats side by side. Pantheon's top speed is only 3 miles per hour faster than VelociCoaster, and Pantheon also stands 18 feet taller than VelociCoaster. And lastly, Pantheon has 4 launches while VelociCoaster features only 2. On the other hand, VelociCoaster features 4 inversions while Pantheon only features 2. One thing I didn't mention in the stats portion was airtime, so I'm going to go ahead and do that here. From what I can tell, Pantheon features 7 airtime moments, but please correct me if I'm wrong on that. The airtime wasn't specified on our CDB. Anyways, that's 7 airtime moments on Pantheon, while VelociCoaster features 8 based off of a few POVs that I've seen. I did my own counting on that. Now that we looked at the stats for each of these coasters, let's go through their layouts. Let's start with VelociCoaster. After dispatching from the station, you will go through a couple of turns through a little bit of theming, not too much based on the POVs I've seen, and then you line up with your first launch. After being launched 50 miles per hour, you're going to go through your first inversion, which is the Immelman. Following the Immelman, you'll be thrown through your second inversion, which is the dive loop. Following the dive loop, you'll maneuver through rapid transitions and many airtime moments, all the while you're flying through rocks, foliage, and even bypassing water. Following this portion of the ride, you dive into a tunnel and are launched 70 miles per hour into the 155-foot tall top hat. Following the top hat, you dive down an 80-degree drop and fly through a 100-foot long 0G stall, the third inversion. Following the stall, you go through a fun-looking helix section that features 2 airtime moments, a wave turn, and a sharp outer bank turn. Following the helix area, you get a sharp pop of ejector airtime, before your fourth and final inversion, the barrel roll over the lagoon. After the barrel roll, you get 2 more pops of airtime through an S-bend, and then you hit the brake run, which concludes the ride on VelociCoaster. Now let's look at Pantheon's layout. To start the ride, you turn out of the station and go through your first launch. This launch sends you into your first inversion, the 0G winder. Following the inversion, you take a few turns into the main launch section. You navigate the launch track, which features an airtime hill. You begin to climb the top hat, but you don't quite make it all the way to the top. You fall backwards through the launch track and are launched backwards through a vertical spike. You descend the spike and launch to the top of the top hat and descend down a 95-degree drop. Following the drop, you turn and fly through a massive Outer Bank airtime hill, much like the one on Steel Vengeance. Following the Outer Bank, you make a 180-degree turn into the 0G stall. Following the stall, you go through another near 180-degree turn, followed by a wave turn, and then the brake run. That is a much shorter ride than VelociCoaster. Now that we've gone through each layout, let's take a look at what makes each coaster special. And we're going to start with VelociCoaster. The main thing I want to point out with VelociCoaster is the immaculate theming. There is so much foliage in the first half of the ride, as well as rockwork and waterfalls. The show building and queue house is also incredibly themed. The entrance sign is themed to a raptor paddock entrance. Also at the entrance, you have small raptor statues looming over the midway. And speaking of raptor statues, you have a few full-sized raptor statues scattered through the first half of the coaster. Creating a full experience is what Universal was going for with this ride, not just building a super intense layout, but they executed both at the exact same time perfectly. The next thing I want to mention is how this coaster interacts with passing guests. There's a place you can stand to see the enclosed first portion of the coaster, and watch it maneuver the rockwork and terrain. There's also a bypass bridge that passed right through the helix portion of the ride. I walked the bypass bridge before testing began and after the ride opened. And let me say, you feel like you could just reach up and touch the track. That's how close it gets to you. The next thing I want to talk about is that this ride has a storyline. The theme to this ride is that they built a coaster inside of the Raptor paddock at Jurassic World. And don't even get me started on the queue for this ride. It is insane. At one point you can walk by windows and see the second launch. and while the train launches, some projections of raptors run right next to it. At another portion in the queue, you walk by the actual enclosure for the raptors, where they're hooked up to muzzles, but only a couple are there, and a couple are missing. And let me tell you, those animatronics in the queue look so real, and I haven't even seen them in person. Just seeing them on videos is stunning. The entire queue for that ride is just perfect. The final thing I'm going to cover is the trains. The design of the train is so sleek. The Zero car, as well as the rest of the train, has lighting. Just the overall design of the train is amazing. Those are probably my favorite set of roller coaster trains. That is a lot of stuff packed into one ride. Universal really went all out with VelociCoaster. Now let's move on to Pantheon. And unfortunately for Pantheon, there's not a lot of special things about it to cover. But I am going to kick things off with those trains. The trains look phenomenal. The colors they used were perfect, as well as the overall color scheme for the entire ride. I love the golden track on the white supports. Pantheon also has a nice secluded setting, surrounded by trees. Unfortunately though, that means no interaction with passing guests. Unfortunately, that's all I got for Pantheon. Unlike Universal, Busch Gardens Williamsburg went for a more thrilling layout, rather than both a thrilling ride and an immersive experience. Now that we've dissected both of these coasters to the bone, it's time to put them side by side as a whole, and determine which coaster will indeed be better. Before I reveal which one I think will be better, and I'm sure you know which one I'm going to pick, let me say that I think both of these are going to be amazing rides. Definitely top 5 worthy. But I do think one will be better than the other, and that coaster is VelociCoaster. Before the Pantheon fanboys form a riot outside my house, let me explain. VelociCoaster is the complete package. You have a fantastic layout mixed with incredible theming and a solid storyline. Yet Pantheon doesn't have a lot of theming elements, and there's no apparent storyline. It's more just a ride rather than an overall experience. Which is why I think VelociCoaster will be better than Pantheon. Now Pantheon is not yet open to the public, so we won't know exactly which one is better until Pantheon opens. So for now, in my opinion at least, VelociCoaster will be better than Pantheon. And that's going to wrap up this video. Let me know which coaster you think will be better. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.